welcome back to We Might Be Dead. Doesn't seem like a while to you guys, but for us, it's been almost a year.
Has it really been
Yeah,
that long?
it has.
Wow.
So we took a little pause. Probably my fault, but I'll take ownership for it. But I think it's going to end up better than not having done it. So we're going to launch, and you guys won't even know.
Listen, the pause was great because we had so many things happen,
We
right?
did.
Had a child graduate and go off to college. You had driver's license, right?
Well, no, we're still gearing up for that, but we had a turn 13, a turn 16. It was a busier year than what I thought it was going to
Big
be.
milestones, right? I know. My baby went 14 and a half hours away. So that was a lot, finishing up. We talked about cheer season last year. So my
Yeah.
cheer days are done. I hung up my hat and now I'm a sorority mom,
Yeah.
and an SEC roll tide.
I was thinking about you. Izzy cheered with the older girls varsity basketball team last week as like a little fundraiser for them, and she just like loved it. It was so cute. They're so adorable.
Such a great time.
It
I
is.
loved it when she was in it. Now I'm like all about
Yeah. So many changes.
sorority, right?
I that I can't imagine, but I'm sure you'll have some good stories to come out of that. Maybe she won't let you tell them for a few years. But anyway, we're back and we're going to keep talking about everything that we talked about. I guess we're going to be talking about all sorts of different metaphysical things today. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I feel like energy is a big one because we brushed on it before in
Mm-hmm.
season 1, right?
Yep.
Energy and how we absorb it and
Okay.
let's roll with it.
So this kind of leads back into what led me to take a little bit of a pause or before. I think that like I energetically went through a big shift in the last year. I think I've changed and evolved and grown maybe like a thicker skin. I've kind of boiled down my energy and just am focusing on the things that I get a return on, which was a big change in my life. So I think that even the people that I'm around now, I'm much more judicious about how I go about opening myself
Sure.
to things. So how
Sure.
does that happen to you? What if you have somebody come in your office that you're like, uh-oh.
Oh, oh, DEFCON 5. No,
Yeah.
just kidding. Well, there's a couple things. Working with my guides over the years, the way that I have.
Okay, so let's do it like a super quick recap of working with your guide. So your guide is your spirit team that you've established a long-standing relationship with that help you communicate with people here. You are their intermediary,
Correct.
but you also had to set rules with them.
I did. Yes.
And why is that?
I personally chose to set rules because they protect me.
Okay.
So not only does the divine God,
Mhm.
protect, but my guides because you're working with them every day. So they are the ones that are feeding me the data and the information. An example would be if I'm talking to somebody who doesn't speak English.
Okay.
Okay. And in my mind, I don't speak that language. So my guides have to translate that native language to English so that I can read to that person.
And do people come through they come through with their same religion that they practice, right?
Correct.
So there's no difference. There's no like this one's superior to this one. Like they still communicate in their own practicing beliefs that they had here.
When they come to the
Yeah.
read of that level, yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Okay. So you were initially when you started, you were kind of like an open book and you know everything. Like okay. So what made you decide what to pick and how long did it?
Well, I think it was when I first started the mix was doing a lot of paranormal investigations.
Okay.
So being the sensitive on the, being called on the site. And I think just walking into these places and spaces and just trying to help the team out. So you're
Mhm.
eager, you're excited, you have this gift and you're like boom, boom, boom as you're walking in these rooms, but not realizing you need to work with your guides to protect you, to shield you. Now, I had learned and I had been taught about, protection and guides. But when you're first starting out like that, you're not really sure how to compartmentalize all those
Uh-huh.
pieces. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so for me, I think it was just really energetically getting hit because if I went into a place or space and there was something tragic or traumatic that happened or sinister, and then I'd
Mhm.
come home at night and it was just like I
And you'd
couldn't.
have physical
Oh,
symptoms?
yeah, I
Like
had
what?
physical, I'd feel the death or I could see it over and over in my mind, like, I
Okay.
couldn't shut it down. It was just a constant energy every day
Like a
of
PTSD a
a
little
little
bit.
bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that would be a
Yeah.
good way of, your mind just couldn't stop.
Mhm.
And so until I learned to work with my guides to protect my filter, if
Mhm.
you will, which took years because when you first start out, your energy is super strong and you can read like Superman. It's like,
So did you get scared? Did you think, "Maybe I don't wanna do this ever?"
oh, yeah. There were times that I was, very disturbed, a lot of sleepless nights. And I think
Mhm.
that that contributed to my sleepless patterns. We talk about
Yeah.
how I don't sleep well because it's starting out. I never slept great to begin with. But then
Mhm.
when you had the intensity of that energy, especially in buildings and places and spaces that you're
Mhm.
walking into, that you're not familiar with what's happening,
Mhm.
and then you're absorbing all that, right? And then you're coming home to your family, you're, trying to live your everyday, and
Right.
then it was just really infiltrating into my being, if you
Mhm.
will, and I think it was probably the beginning of the energy of the off sleep pattern. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
didn't know it at the time, but now that I look back, oh, yeah, you
Yeah.
know? So, learning to work with my guides was how I created my personal filter
Okay.
because I could go out in public, be anywhere, and you're hearing everything, seeing everything. You're looking at people at dinner and you're looking at all their loved ones in an elevator, in a hospital. You're looking at so it was very overwhelming
So what is your limit? Am I allowed to ask?
as far
Like, did you just say, like, "Okay, so I only want to hear at this time." Like, is there a signal that you give that's like, "Okay, I'm ready for
my prayer.
your prayers, your
hmm
opening."
My prayer is my signal. But it took
Mhm.
me a long time to figure that out and to filter that out. So I can go into a grocery store and not feel
Mhm.
overwhelmed like I used to.
Is it still there in the background a little bit
A little bit,
sometimes?
sometimes. So, it's not perfect, it's not an exact
Right.
science, it's not a perfect, method, right?
Mhm.
But I think I have more control of it,
Okay.
and depending on how I feel. So, as a reader, if I'm feeling exhausted or tired or if I'm ill,
Mhm.
then I tend to pick it up more because
Okay.
I'm
Your
less
guards are
yeah,
down.
exactly.
Yeah.
No matter how much I protect myself, shield myself,
Mhm.
when I feel energetically attacked in my own illness, does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yeah.
Then I become much more hypersensitive to
Everything
the
else.
world around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that does make sense. So, when you create these boundaries, are they immediately respected, or does it take a little while, like, to kick in?
I think it took a little bit
Yeah.
because you're having to learn. I mean, the first thing you really want to do is cultivate that relationship with your
Mhm.
guide so that you understand their energy, you understand how they're coming in and protecting you. So that's a big piece right there.
Okay.
And then once you kind of can feel what that ebb and flow is, then it kind of merges together and then you trust that they're protecting you. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Mhm.
And of course you're always wanting to kind of thank them and connect to them. But I know I had mentioned before about how they will come and go. And that's the hard part. So you have your guide and you're really connected with them and you have this great ebb and flow and then whoop, they're gone, right?
Okay.
And somebody else comes in. And then you have to kind of learn a new language with
Okay.
that energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess they keep you on your toes, right?
Yeah. Does anybody stay with you forever, though? Do you have people who stay with you forever? I say people, but
Guides. I don't know. I mean, I've had one that's been with me a really, really long time, the
Mhm.
long haul. Um, my gatekeeper guide has been with me. My main guide has changed a couple times over. So I actually got to the point at one point where I felt like I had a minimal relationship at one point with my main guide because I had like two or three turnover quick, and I thought I was just frustrated because once you get to know them,
Mhm.
they're like energetically your friend in a
So
weird way.
how did you, like, learn about them or meet them initially? Like, did somebody teach you how to do this, or was it just something that you
I It started with that episode we go back to last season.
Mhm.
I don't know which one it was where I had the crystal when I was up in Lily Dale.
Mhm.
And that was the time when I learned to connect to my guide. Like I just knew that we had guides to connect to, and I just started to cultivate that relationship and build with what was there. And her name was Catherine at the time.
Okay.
And so starting to just have this person and this energy you could feel. And then I just kind of kept
And is
building.
it, like, distinctly male or female energy, or
I have felt or
yeah?
children or, I
Mhm.
felt multiple things come through with the energy of the
Okay, but it feels
guides.
like, similar to a person.
Yes,
Yes?
yes, yes.
Okay. And you think that's designed to make it easier to connect, or
I
do you
think so.
yeah.
I think so. I mean, I do because you're dealing with the next level of your layer of filter. So you need the closest thing that's going to feel human, right?
Right.
That's going to have a strength Because remember, when a spirit passes away, if they're new, they're not as strong as, like, a guide would be, right? They haven't
Mhm.
developed their skill set on the other side to come through as strong as a guide would.
Right. So do you think that people who are intuitively inclined can just open up to it? Like, could you be 50 years old and suddenly tune into it? Or is it something that you have to be
Nope. I think actually sometimes the older you get, the better that is because it's timing in life.
Okay.
So we all have gifts. Everybody's built with something, but I think it's timing in life.
Mhm.
And when it's forced, it never works.
Right.
When people have it, they tune into it, they're like, I'm gonna do it, I want it, blah blah blah. But when they're forcing it, either they won't succeed, you see them, become hot and then they leave, or they just don't do well, right?
Mhm.
I think it's all about timing, and you have to trust the energy that's coming at you and trust that your strength is the right time. I have clients right now that I'm mentoring that are, in their 50s plus
Mhm.
that are developing their skills
Yeah,
and
I've done it with
wanting to
them.
just yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I really think it's just timing in life, and they may be at the time in their life where they have the time
Right.
to
I
energetically.
ask because I think a lot of people perceive it as like, and because okay, so kids, some kids are like born with a thinner veil, right? So they're not conditioned yet to be like, no, 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 no. Like,
Right.
and they'll say things and people are like, so and there's different names, people call it whatever. Like, and certainly some kids are born and they like you
Mhm,
remember from a super, super young age,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
But I think that there are people like me. I certainly wasn't born with that ability, nor is mine as strong as yours, but it's there,
Right.
right?
Well, exactly, and it's just like that example of Picasso,
Mhm.
right? I cannot paint well, right?
Mhm.
I'm not an artist by any stretch of the mean, but he came in just being able to create the most
Mhm.
beautiful pieces of art, correct?
Mhm.
So I do believe everybody has a gift, and I can paint, but not well,
Right.
right? And if I kept practicing, maybe I would get better, but I may never be able to paint to the degree that he could paint, correct?
Mhm.
Or play a piano like
Mhm.
Mozart,
Mhm.
right? So I can practice every day and I can play, but I'm not great.
Mhm.
So I think that just is everybody has a little bit more of a muscle memory
Mhm.
that some is stronger than others. Some people are better with like athletics, athletics, an athlete.
Uh-huh.
I think we're all gifted with something, right? And our intuition is everyone's universal gift.
Okay, so when you meet someone, certainly there are people who are more open, not only more open-minded necessarily, but maybe more open, like in a way that allows things to enter their field that like maybe might not be great. So what determines that for a person? Like I know I'm open. I know that I am. There have been times that it's made me sick and that I've had to straighten it out and things like that. I don't think that I've ever had some sort of attachment, right? I don't think that I have. But I know that I've been too open to other people's energy, even people that are just like here and
Mhm.
like I'm interacting with and sucking up their bad shit, right? Like, so what happens to a person who is metaphysically open, but maybe doesn't know how to turn it down? Like, are people more open? Or do they become targets? I guess is what my question is. Can they be a target for like negative and bad things? Or is it only ever divinely white light centered
Mm-mm,
energy?
mm-mm, no.
Okay.
I think they can definitely be a target. And it's kind of like playing with fire, right? Okay, so if you have this gift, right? And like, okay, so you're aware of your ability, you're aware of it, but you also have a sense of boundary, right?
Right.
And then you get somebody who's intuitive and they jump into it like almost
Like
like Satan tricking them,
like
right?
2 feet first
Oh yeah,
without looking.
exactly. So it's like to me, it's like being tricked by the devil.
Okay.
Okay. And then all of a sudden they're in this whole world, but you'll notice a difference because the white divine gifted person with the white light, they'll talk about it, but they're a little more humble with it. They're not super
Forthcoming.
exactly. Okay. And somebody who's really into this and then they jump 2 feet in and
Okay.
they don't have the filter, okay, and they just keep going, they're going to talk more negatively. They're going to talk more sinister, dark, like things that happen that are creepy or
Uh-huh.
ill will versus a person who is of light, right? that has that divine gift into them, they're probably going to talk more about being at the gas pump and, "Oh, I saw this person,"
Yeah,
and,
so I've not had a lot of really scary things happen to me ever other than the one time, but I was pretty aligned. I was pretty like, I was taking classes with you at
Mhm,
that point, but it was like, a little bit of like a trickster thing.
sure.
But I recognized it, and then as soon as I acknowledged it and shut it down, it has not happened ever again to me since, but I've also not had I mean, have I had things that make me go, "Holy shit, did that really just happen?" Like, yeah, of
Right.
course, but nothing that I was like, "Whoa," you
Okay,
know what I mean?
so
I don't know, nothing that felt
yeah, and then there is, like we talked about the one episode, the apartment that I lived in with the
Uh-huh,
and that wasn't it was terrifying to me at the time because I'm like, "What's happening?" Right? I'm young and this, by
right,
myself
but
and
it
this
was really
creepy.
like, "Hey, you need to get out."
Exactly, like,
Right,
but I didn't know that. I couldn't relate that at the time. I mean, my
right,
20-year-old
right,
mind is not evolved at that point
right,
into this world, right? Um, or living when I married my husband and we had the house and all the crazy things were happening there. Like, it was brand new and everything
mhm,
that was happening. I mean, I knew then I wasn't being haunted by something negative. I knew
right.
something was getting my attention to because I was developing this and I took a break and it was almost like pushing
Forcing
me.
you back
Mhm.
in, right, but it didn't feel like dark.
No,
Right,
no,
right,
no,
right.
no.
So, yeah, I've that's how I feel too, but there are people that are just so do you think that bad energy seeks out that open source and exploits it, or do you think that those people are, like, kind of inherently gonna go down that road
I think
anyway,
it's a
and can it be
combination of
changed?
both. I think it's a combination of both because
Okay.
the mind, the body, the spirit, you go back, Einstein always said everything is energy. Like if we were to go back to some of those philosophers, there's a lot of people that really hone in on energy
Mhm.
and everything is really
Oh, yeah.
energy. Okay. Um, it's the mental, it goes to two things. It's the life, it's the mental health of the person, it's the life trauma that they have in this life. There's a lot of things that are contributing factors to this. So you could be very intuitively gifted, right?
Okay.
And then you could have a lot of trauma in your life, okay? And the intuition should be able to help you trump the trauma, right? And
Do you ever think that trauma turns on intuition and makes people, like, hyper aware of energy shifts?
I think it can.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it can 100%. But I also think that trauma can put people in darker places and
Okay.
draw in negative energy too.
Because like attracts like.
Exactly, and if you're not healed, right? And you'll see this is very true too. You'll see a lot of people in the metaphysic industry, with a lot of trauma,
Okay.
okay? They may have a lot of trauma and they become great healers,
Okay.
okay? But they're also gifted in a way to take that energy and channel it into positive.
Right.
And then you get the people in the industry that are just trauma ridden, that are intuitive, but they're gonna be more dark or negative or does
Okay.
that make
Yeah.
sense? Like, they could be great readers, but they'll be more darker. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Mhm.
So,
Do you think that people who maybe are more inclined toward those dark things, do you think they change ever or no?
if if they heal, 100%. I do believe that.
Yeah.
I think that's where you'll see the difference with the psychics and the mediums. Sometimes those psychics.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about the
Yep,
difference between psychics and mediums.
because I think the psychic reader
Uh-huh.
will tend to be this is what I mean, again, because I can do psychic and I can do
Right.
mediumship, but people come to me more for the mediumship, but I feel like the mediumship goes more in the white light because
Right.
you're going into the healing aspect. So your brain is you're automatically conditioned all the time for
Well,
healing,
to
right?
me, it goes everything, like, goes up, like, the
Correct.
energy goes up, and it feels all here. You can't see me, but I'm waving my hands around in the air like an idiot.
We look like the hokey pokey here, right? Um, so yes, and I think that because you're just channeling this bright divine light always,
Mhm,
and try to heal the person or bring healing too,
mhm.
correct? But when you're doing psychic work, so when I do my psychic work, so I have to talk about this a little bit 'cause it's a little different than maybe a psychic, right?
Yeah,
So
so
if
I don't know I don't think that we've ever really done any.
I don't think we have
No.
either. So we're going a little, we're still into energy here. So
Alright, we are still as ADHD as we were before. Nothing has changed in that way, but no, I think I need you to explain it to me because that's something that I definitely don't have, and I've never seen a psychic ever.
Okay. Well, yeah, you have. I have.
Well, I know, but you've never I've never come to you for like a psychic reading, right? It's always sort of
That's
been
true, that's true.
mediumship, right?
Okay. So the difference I find with a medium psychic, and
Mhm.
for me personally, this may not hold true to all.
Okay.
So please disclosure there that this
Okay.
is my personal experience with this.
Mhm.
So channeling white light energy, you're bringing healing, and that I know is a divine purpose and gift, right?
Mhm.
Then the psychic side. So when people come to me and I ask, do you want to go more spirit or would you like to go more future or a little bit of both? Because I'm going into two different sides of my brain.
Okay, so you have always told me that I would write a book, and you did predict the podcast. So I guess maybe I did get more psychic from you than what I realized.
There you go. There you go. So I'm going into I said two different sides of my brain, two different channels. So if
Okay.
I know you're coming to me and you're wanting to connect to spirit, then I know I'm going into when I pray, I'm kind of going into this one channel, connecting in one direction so that I can say to my guide, okay, bring me all the energy of their spirits, right?
Okay.
And then if you tell me you want more future, okay, then I'm kind of going on the other side of my mind, kind of focusing and looking and predicting. Okay. And so it's a little bit different because here I'm connecting solely to your loved ones and intentionally bringing in your loved ones to me.
So do your spirit guides communicate with you for psychic also? For
Yes.
both?
So, but what I do is this because I'm so fluent in the mediumship part of
Mhm.
it, I often tend will bring in a little bit of a loved one in a psychic read because I just automatically go right to my guide that takes me right to that.
Mhm.
And a lot of times when I do psychic work, even if I'm not saying it to you, if you just solely want the psychic stuff, a
Mhm.
lot of times I'm connecting to one of your loved ones who is giving me the data, the information about your life, your future. So I often tend to connect to, does that make sense?
Mhm.
Your spirits. But sometimes I just solely can see and predict and I'll just look into the future. But the difference here is this because I'm always going on the healing white light derivative side of things. I'm not solely tapping into my psychic side because I'm also using spirit, right? Your
Mhm.
loved ones to help me get the psychic information. Where a psychic, okay, will just solely come into that psychic mind and start to predict and see, and that's where it can be very blunt, like you would say.
I was gonna
Does
say, what if
so
so
and so have disease? Are they going to die?
right,
The psychic would say probably yes or no.
right.
Where I am not going to because I'm channeling in a different.
So do you know and you just don't say, or is that a boundary that you've set up?
It's a boundary that I've set up.
Okay.
Yes. So have I heard and seen? Yes. And then I told my guides I don't want to know because I've
Okay.
had situations where I've had people and then they have
Right.
passed. And
What
then
about the circumstances where something could be changed? Does that exist or does that not exist?
as far as,
Like, if do you ever get a thing that's like, "You should probably tell this person to take a peek at this
oh, yeah. Yeah. And I
because it's
will.
preventable."
And I will. Yes.
Okay.
Or if I see something, and I will handle it very gracefully,
Mhm.
oh, maybe this, might take a look at this, or if I'm really seeing something repetitive, and
This is
it's
where I would get in trouble because whatever I think is right all over my face. So I'd be like, "Oh,
yeah.
no."
So if I hear it multiple times in my mind, then I know that I have to reinforce that to the
Okay.
person without scaring them, because again, you got the mental health of something. So if I were to say to you, okay, you know what, I see cancer cells around you. You better
Mhm.
go get checked. You're gonna be freaking out every moment until you
Well,
have
then you
that.
also fall into that, like, where you give energy, energy grows. So it's like,
Yeah.
if I sit around every day thinking,
Yes.
"Am I
Yes.
growing this in my body?" My body could be like, "Grow this in your body." You know what I
Exactly.
mean? I
Exactly.
really believe that.
Oh,
I do.
100%. I mean, again, we talked about the medical medium Anthony Williams
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
before,
Mhm.
and he is very right about we create our own illnesses,
Mhm.
in our body. So I do believe that we can manifest
Mhm.
that. So you have to be careful with.
You do, and not to say that every person who ever gets sick, like, asked for it. That's not what I mean.
Right.
I mean, by, like, focusing on something and giving all of your energy to it, and that's it's a
Well, yeah,
response.
because you become hyper vigilant to that
Right.
area, correct?
Right.
So, and then when we do have a physical issue, like say we have breast cancer or something
Mhm.
like that, and we're going through treatment, we have to trust that where we are in that phase, if it's not, stage 4, and we could heal, we have to focus on, we have to be aware, right,
Mhm.
that we have a disease, but we can heal and focus on the healing so that we can heal faster.
Mhm.
Or I believe that.
Do you think that you have ever had physical things happen to you as a result? And has it been, like,
Mhm.
long-standing or quick and like a flu, or is it something that's, like, stuck onto you?
No. So energy when you're reading for years and years and years, so you're pulling in a lot of other energy from other people all day long. So you're pulling in the spirit, you're pulling in your sitter.
Mhm.
And over time, mediums are very prone to diabetes. They'll get type 2 diabetes. That's
Why do
very
you think that is?
I just know that mediums tend to get physical illnesses a lot. For me, I felt like it was like my thyroid issues, sitting all day. I had jobs where I was going all the time, so
Mhm.
the weight gain kicks in because you're just up and down sitting all day.
Mhm.
You're not moving far. Where am I going from my chair to the door and back?
Right.
There's very limited space, right?
Mhm.
So those things are very common for the medium. And I also think too, I don't know why. I mean, knock on wood, I don't have the type 2, but I know that that's very common with mediums. And I don't know if it's because the way we read. So we do better when we're back to back to back, I
Okay.
find. So say we start our day at 10
Uh-huh.
and we work till 2, we take a break, and then we come back. Is it because we're binging in that 2 to 4, window?
Right.
Because that's your kind of
Right, is it the horse or is it the cart? Like, is it
exactly.
because you're is it your se but, I mean, I think a lot of jobs are set up that way,
Mhm.
though. I
But but
mean
but you're also internalizing everything, so
right.
it's a little bit different, so where is that boundary? I'm not sure, because when you take too many breaks in between your day, then it's hard to rally yourself back around your mind. For me, it is anyway. I do
Mhm.
better when I'm like, "Boom, boom."
Mhm.
Um, I think when I have too much of an intermittent day, I think it becomes more exhausting for me.
Well, diabetes is linked to kidneys,
Mm,
correct?
I think so.
So, kidneys, that's your filter
Yeah,
in your
yeah.
body,
So that
so
makes sense, yeah, yeah.
it does,
But
kind
you'll
of.
see cancer, you'll see diabetes, you'll see a lot of mediums, very prone to that. I'm not
Mhm.
sure the correlation. I think really is you're filtering in other people's energy all the
Mhm.
time, so.
So, what if you do have somebody who doesn't have great energy, but they're in your office? They're already sitting here.
And, funny, go back to something, you just said something about the kidneys.
Uh-huh.
2018, I had that tumor on my kidney, and I had to have part of my kidney
Oh, r
removed, and it was a
oh,
very freaky way that I found out about it. And
wow. I
so
don't remember this.
yeah. So back in 2018, yeah, I keep my life very private, but I
Well,
never re
yeah, well, 18 would have been like what? Izzy would have been 2. So I was in the thick of
mhm. So
new motherhood again.
I was not up here in this house yet. It was discovered when I was in my old house. So I moved up here in 2016.
Mhm.
And I remember I was laying in bed. I was doing the paranormal stuff. So this is we talk about energy and
The
yeah,
investigative stuff.
right. So I was working with a team and all that energy was coming through. And I remember laying in bed one morning and I had this heart, I can't explain it. Like I had this tremendous burning pain coming through. And I thought, oh, and it wouldn't go away. And
In your
oh,
chest?
yeah. And I can't remember all of what it was now. I just remember it was really, really intense. And my kids, I think I took them to the preschool or whatever. And I remember hearing my dad. He said, "Go to the doctors." So I called my doctor and she said, "Go to the ER." So I went to the ER and
They probably thought it was cardiac, right?
yeah. So when they started doing a scan, they found the tumor on my kidney. So had I not gone in for that, they never would have found the
Right.
tumor on the kidney.
And
And
it was just an isolated one-off incident.
they couldn't biopsy it because it was like right to my ribs. So I had to laparoscopically like have part of it removed. And then
Yeah.
once they did, it was, non
Okay.
benign. But it was just, but it was scary because it was like MRI, CT, MRI. Like
Yeah.
nobody could figure out if it was or wasn't. So finally I was like,
So people would say to you, "Well, how come you didn't know? 'Cause you're psychic." Right? Like, I think that people do think that
oh,
it's
a
like you just
thousand
have
percent.
this, like, omnipotent knowing of, I remember when I first started seeing you, I'd be like, "Oh my god, Tara's gonna know every bad thing that I ever did in my entire life the second I sit down across from her. She's gonna be like, 'I can't read you because you are
I think we're
bad.'"
the worst for ourselves. It's, like
Yeah.
not tuning into like knowing like your family, your kids, your husband.
No, but, like, I feel like at least with me, if you tune into something, it's because it's a message for me. It's not
Correct.
because you want to know all of my
Correct.
sordid
Correct. No.
stuff.
I don't have the energy for
Yeah.
it. Like even my daughter, she's off to college,
Uh-huh.
and that's the hardest thing. Here she is attached to my hip all these years, and
Mhm.
now she's 14 hours
Yeah, I'm
away,
not
living
ready
a
for that.
life
Yeah.
that I have no clue about, right?
Yeah.
And then there's just times when I'm laying there in bed and I'll wake up and it's like 1, 2 in the morning and I like stand up
Uh-huh.
and I'm thinking of like I know there's just something like maybe she's still out, maybe
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I'll like really vibe her energy in that moment.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's not always bad. It's just, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, we're all connected, but that's scarier. It is scarier.
Yeah.
So what if you do have somebody who comes in your office and they're already here and you're like, "Uh-oh."
Uh-oh.
Can you,
Uh,
like, filter out part of it? Can you say, "All right, well," or do you say to somebody like, "You have something really, really dark connected to you, and,
no.
like, let's figure this
No.
out."
Because well, there's a couple things. One, I don't necessarily see the darkness. I mean, I'll be kind of shut down. I can see it in a sense of my guides will show me nothing. It's like dark. It's just
Okay.
black. So, but it doesn't mean that there's darkness to them. It just means that this isn't going to be a great interaction, transaction, whatever you want to call it, between
Right.
me and you. Um, because there's something there that's blocking me from getting into your energy field. And it means that you've got something heavier that a light that I don't work in. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Mhm.
But at the same time, do I want to help that person? Yes, but no, because then when I start going into that, guess what? Then it comes to me.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So
Mhm.
I'm not the person to undo your darkness.
Mhm. So is your
I know that
kidney thing
sounds
the
bad.
only yeah.
I'm not the person to do it. I don't want to do it. Like, let me just say
Right.
this. I used to want to do it until things, then you realize how dark it can be.
Right.
Right. And so I'm not the person to do that.
So what specifically happened to you that made you think like, "I don't wanna do this anymore?"
Attachments, things that,
Okay.
took years to get rid of, like years and years and years of like,
And you
yeah,
think it came from that paranormal time, or did it come from people that you were reading?
it started with the paranormal time, for sure. And I think just over the years, a little combination, but definitely the main source came from the paranormal time.
Okay.
So, and of course, if I if I know I can help somebody, I will send them somewhere else to
Mhm.
somebody that I know can help them. Does that make sense? In
Yeah.
such a way that I will say, "Oh, you know what? This person would be great. You'd benefit from that." I won't necessarily say, "Oh, you've got all this darkness around you." And because again, psychologically, people will take that to the holy grail and then
Right.
they're going to walk around with even more of a loom because I said you have XYZ
Right.
ABC. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Now, when I start a read, sometimes I can see a place. This is to answer your question. I can see a place in space. So if I start reading someone, I can tell they're heavy. I can tell it's dark.
Okay.
And I will say that. I will say it's a darker shade. It doesn't mean that it's evil, demonic. It just means emotionally
Flatter.
they're in a heavy space. And I
Okay.
can see that. So, but when I say the word dark, I think sometimes people think, so I always have to say, I don't mean evil. I just mean heavy.
Right. So if someone is in a more depressed state physically,
hmm
does that create an attraction to like the more negative things as like an open door or no?
It can. It
Okay.
depends on the person. It depends on the obsession. Okay.
Okay.
So, 90% of my clients would come in with probably a heavier state because they're
Well,
grieving,
grief, yeah.
right? So I see that all day long,
Mhm.
that state. And sometimes it's even heavier and darker. I don't mean demonic, it's just dark, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then you have somebody who maybe isn't coming in with grief, but they have a darker state because maybe their life is a shit show.
Mhm.
Okay. And there's just constant upheaval in their life.
Mhm.
So it is darker because it is heavier, but it doesn't mean it's demonic. But then they could be also intuitive and then they start to dabble into a direction. And then that's when it becomes like demonically dark. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different of the darknesses.
So what's your advice to somebody who's like, "Oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe I do wanna try it." I remember for me, like, when I would physically start using tools, right? So I was super drawn to cards,
Mm-hmm.
which I still am,
Mm-hmm.
but, like, I had a certain angel deck, um, that was really, like, easy for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I immediately felt, like, connected to it and
I know which one it is. The one with the parked car.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah,
See how I know you? I can
yeah,
see your mind. I can see
because
it.
that was my first signal that I had, um so an acquaintance of my mom's had a friend whose husband died. It was, like, very removed from me, and this was when I was starting out, like, trying to do not trying, trying is even the wrong word, right? Like,
Mhm.
I wasn't trying, I was just using it. I was just doing it, right? And so when I had gotten those cards, I'd gotten them for myself because I was drawn to them. Not even in person, it was, like, on Amazon, right?
Mhm,
And I just felt like, "Oh, no, this is good."
mhm.
But it was among a couple that I had purchased, and the other ones were just, like just happened to be in my house, but for whatever reason, those were the only ones that I really connected to. But anyway, this man sent me all these signs that were, like, very clear, like, okay, he was in the process of passing away when I was reading his cards, but it was the first person that I had ever connected to that wasn't me,
Right.
right? Or, like, somebody sitting across from me that I knew really well. And, it was very, like, white light, release, like, all
Mhm.
these, like, very, like, blunt cards, and then I kept getting parked car, and I was like, "Why?"
Isn't that funny? I just said.
Yes, but because I hesitated and I didn't wanna say because I questioned myself so much, I was
Mhm,
like, "This is wrong, like, what
mhm.
the hell does parking have to do with anything?" Well, here, his daughter had just gotten her driver's license, and, like, the last thing that he had been doing with her when he was well enough to was teaching her how to park.
Mm.
And so it
Yeah,
did
yeah,
mean
makes sense,
something,
yeah.
but that was my like, that was super validating to me,
Sure.
right? But then, when I started using, like, dowsing rods, I used them, and then I was like, "Whoa, I need to, like" I physically was like, "Okay, you need to get better at, like, other things before you do this." So now I can,
Mhm.
but it took me a while, and even, like, certain cards, like, I had to wait years, like, I had to own them for years before I could
Well,
use them openly, right?
100%.
So, like
Well, it's going back to timing and everything being energy and timing, and the example is exactly that, or like I said to you, when I was taking classes years ago and I set them aside.
mhm,
Because if you force it, then you're just forcing
mhm,
energy, right? You're forcing something, you can push through anything in life. Like we can
mhm,
practice and practice and practice, but the authenticity of the delivery of the message is always going to be kind of forced, right?
mhm.
But if you're just going, like you said, you set the dowsing rods down. You know, you knew that that was the time for the dowsing
Mhm,
rods, right? Or the cards
mhm,
or whatever deviation tool you're using, it's all about timing, and when the energy is right, it ebbs and it flows. It's never forced. I just had a class on that a couple weeks ago.
okay,
That energy, it's never forced. Spirit energy is never ever forced. We don't force it.
okay,
And it's never heinous, dark. It's always, it's positive. It's light.
mhm,
But it's never forced, and that's a big difference right there. We force it, then we can end up going into probably areas that are darker.
right.
Or when we have things that psychically attack us, we get a lot of psychic hits.
Okay, so explain that to the layman, a
The
psychic
layman.
attack.
So we can get psychically attacked or psychic. So our psychic hits would be when we're getting the download. So we're getting hits of intuition,
Which
right?
look like what?
It could be deja vu, could be premonitions, a deep sense of knowing. Those are our psychic hits. They come boom, 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 boom,
Mhm.
right? Um, so we all tend to get those. And then what do we do with those, right? Because we get it, then we dismiss it, and then
You get it
and
again,
we get it
and then we
again.
get it again.
Exactly. So, those are our psychic hits. Everybody gets them. It's
Okay,
just how do we acknowledge them?
right, so and if you do and you don't, so I feel like if I like, so this is what happens to me, deja vu is a huge thing,
Sure.
really big, that's my, like, largest
Mhm.
thing, but it can sometimes be scary because sometimes when I would get the deja vu, it would be before, like, a very large traumatic event.
Sure.
Or, like, for me personally,
Mhm.
or, like, some big life shift,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So then when I would get it for other people or things, my reaction would be to be like, "Shit, no. No, 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 no." But then I realized over time, like, oh, actually, it could really mean not nothing, but it could just be like, okay, here's this, like, little channel that you have that's going on. So how do you, like, focus on doing I feel like if you look at too dead on, for me, it goes away. Like,
Mhm.
you have to just, like, sort of exist with it.
Yes. You do. So your premonitions, your psychic hits, right?
Mhm.
Those things are coming in very quickly. Boom, 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 boom. So we acknowledge them, we tune into it. But we have to sit with it. That's what
Right.
we don't do. We get the hit, we get the energy, we acknowledge it for a second in our mind, we discredit it and go past it. But what if we sit with it for a minute and we just kind of absorb it? It doesn't mean we have to place it any one direction, right? Or unless that hit comes to you when it's you're thinking about your daughter and then you get a hit, or
Mhm.
whatever it is. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Then we might be able to place that a little bit more deep. But we often tend to
Yeah.
brush it off. We don't tune into the energy, again, back to the energy
Mhm.
of that, and that's what everybody can do, everybody, but what we don't want to do is overthink it, so
So
there's
how
a
do you
fine
tune
line to
into it without
that.
how do you sit with it?
So I then that's where we can't overthink. So our mind is conditioned, and we most people are overthinkers. Okay, I mean 90% of us
Mm,
overthink things, right?
mhm,
So we get a psychic hit. We get what I call a psychic hit, like that moment of boom. It's a
mhm,
quick mental hit in your mind, or a vision, an image, a thought, a feeling. It could come through one of our clairs, one of our senses, right?
mhm,
And then if we don't ignore it and we sit with it for a minute and we just kind of close our eyes for a minute and just feel it, like absorb it,
mhm.
however it comes to us intuitively.
And we don't
Is
try to force it into a
exactly,
place.
because it's not supposed to be forced. It's coming in, you're receiving this energy, you're receiving this vision, you're receiving this data for a moment in time for a reason, you
Mhm.
know?
And then does it always make sense to you right away, or does it sometimes take a while?
Sometimes it takes a little bit.
Do you ever get things before people come into your office where you're like, you know ahead of time that they're coming?
Yes.
Or, like, maybe not them, but that you have a specific thing that you need to
That and 2 yes and yes. So, sometimes I'll think of somebody, I'll be thinking about a client of mine,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden they come rolling in my office, and
Well, this
oftentimes they're not even on my schedule, like somebody canceled and they must have popped in last minute. I don't usually look at my week, and I
Mhm.
don't usually look at who's coming, because people it's like a rotating door all the time, revolving door all the time. People come, go, reschedule, schedule. So I find that really kind of neat, especially like if I'm really
Mhm.
focused on someone and then, oh, there they
But I
are.
think a lot of people can resonate with that because how many times do you think about someone and then 14 seconds later they call your phone
Exactly.
or, like, just in
Exactly.
that minute you get a text for them or you
Mhm.
open up Facebook and they're the first post or something like
Exactly.
that,
So
like
you're kind of telepathically
right, but people will be like, "Oh,
it's
that's
not a
just coincidence."
coincidence.
See,
No.
I don't think that it
No.
is.
No.
So that's probably how things for me started was, like and I would get a lot of them right in a row, and it
Mhm.
would be, like, almost like, "Oh my gosh."
Oh, you're telepathically
Yeah.
sending a message subliminally that someone else, and because the veil is so much thinner, the world can telepathically tune in stronger. So 3 decades ago, it would have been probably not quite as
Right.
deja vu-y, right?
So, the everything is trending more toward an openness. We're really all over the place today, but that's okay. But,
No, we're still in energy.
it
It's
is
still
energy though.
energy.
So
It's still all
I
energy.
think that there's been a big transition, and I think it like for at least for me from what I've seen, like post-COVID times have been a serious change.
Mhm.
Like it feels like I don't know if it's people facing their own mortality or what, but it feels more up for conversation for people who like maybe you wouldn't think ever would have. Like
Mhm.
I spent my whole life being like I don't know if I should say this out loud, and now I'm on a public platform. So I think that like there has been a big shift for people, maybe not even people who were into it before.
Yeah. Yeah, because the veil has changed, the world has changed. You know, People are more hyper vigilant.
Okay.
Is how I would say that. I get messages every day from people. That they want to open up their skills. They want to do this. They want to do that. And it's funny. Where can they go? Who can they go? And it's interesting because I find myself now resourcing them to different places.
In what way? Like what do you mean?
So if somebody is like, "Okay, okay, they'll ask me, where can I go for healing?" I can do healing, right?
Mhm.
But oftentimes I send them out to someone else. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like, Go here, go do this, like, when I say things that I know I could do for them, I'm resourcing them out to other people.
Mhm.
And I think it's because for me that depending on the person and the person asking me, like, I know already, I've been in their space, I've read them, so I know where their lifeline is in this moment in time. So if
Mhm.
it's just something that I feel is too heavy for me, I will oftentimes outsource
Mhm.
to someone else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're more equipped to handle maybe the trauma of what's going on in their life, where I'm going to absorb it,
Right.
where
Well, like,
somebody
you're
else can.
also on your own timeline too. You're
Mhm.
not just like plugged in here as one static
E
being, right? Like you're
exactly.
growing and evolving and changing too. So,
So I find myself resourcing out more, which is great,
mhm.
and I'm grateful to have people that have different modalities of strength that can help these people evolve a little bit more. I don't mind teaching, but I feel like people have got to go for healing energy work. elsewhere. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think like so I've had a lot of energy work done in my life,
Mhm,
and I'm the big like junkie of it, as you know.
mhm.
We share practitioners actually.
Right, 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 right.
But but I think that sometimes you have to be really careful where you go. Like
Oh, 1,000%.
I'm not a proponent of like Googling Reiki near me. Like
Mhm.
that's not like for me, not that I've ever had anybody bad. I haven't. I've walked into a building that didn't feel great for me, and I have felt like, boy, these people would do a lot better if they weren't practicing in this space. They should
Right,
leave. And
right,
then it ended up that they did leave, and I
right,
didn't ever express that to anybody. But I
right.
think if you're like opening yourself up energetically to another person, they could not be great.
Well, we go back into
Right.
energy. So, for me, letting another practitioner into my space is like it's like they're the pope.
Mm-hmm.
I say this to you. There is only a handful of people that I have ever let energetically in my
Mm-hmm.
space because I've worked so hard on my own energy, my own protection. And not that I don't trust every Reiki practitioner out there because everybody has something to offer to
Mm-hmm.
everybody, but I feel very protective of who I want energetically, who's going to protect my space when they're in my space and not take from my space. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah,
There's
I feel that way even about, like, hugging people. Like, I'm not a big hugger.
mhm,
If I'm hugging you, it's because I feel
mhm,
totally safe,
mhm.
like, in that space with you. So, like,
Right.
my closest girlfriend, she would make fun of me because she was like, "Oh my god, like, you would never hug me before. Like, you were so when we first met, you were so not." And
Yeah,
I was like, "I know." And now, like, I'm like, "Oh, I'll hug her. I love you." Like, you know what I mean?
right.
Like, no problem. But I'm very, like I don't know. I just don't
Well, you
I'm
could
not
show
hopping
that
in
you're
line for that. You know what
right,
I mean?
and
I
I
just
found that my job really I mean, I've always been a hugger with my friends and people, and I'll go
Mhm.
home and see people, and I've always been a hugger. And then the job came, and then I went through this phase where hugging was like, I'm taking everybody's because I was also developing this, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm becoming doing this full time. So now I'm pulling in all this energy and hugging people, and then all of a sudden I kind of went from not wanting to hug people, right? Because
Yeah.
I didn't know how to manage all of it. And then I finally was able to be
Yeah.
skilled in that. So now, and then COVID came, and then you're not hugging anybody, right?
I
But
know.
90% of the people that I read want to be hugged, you
Well,
know?
yeah, you're in that space though of like they're coming for comfort,
Right,
knowing that like
right,
that's pretty
right,
evident.
right.
But
But
it's
it was like a whole way back when in the
yeah,
day, I was like,
yeah,
"Do I hug? Do I don't hug?" And then
yeah.
finally I'm like, "Well, everybody wants a hug, so we gotta
Now
hug."
for me it's very like very black and white. Like I'm willing to do it or I'm not. Like it's very I don't know, it's an odd thing, but
But I found myself I went through phases over the
yeah.
years because I would hug people, but then I would be careful because I was like heart to heart chakra,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm doing all these readings and now I'm being pulled down and like so it took me a long time to find where I could go heart to heart to somebody,
Uh-huh.
right? Energetically, be in the moment, give them the energy they need from me, but
Right.
not take back. But it
Mhm.
took me a long, long time
Yeah.
to get there. Does
Mhm.
that make sense? And
Yeah.
even to this
Yeah, I was
day,
gonna say maybe I'll get there.
I mean,
I
years
hug a lot more than I
you know,
used to.
and thousands of clients and years later, right? But for me, I even find but if I'm not feeling if I'm off, if my energy's drained at the end of the day,
Mhm.
sometimes I have to be careful too because,
Yeah.
like I can't be perfect all the time either.
No, and you don't wanna transfer it to your people
No,
or pets either,
no,
right?
no. That's why I did the shimmy.
Uh-huh.
Seriously,
Yeah.
the shimmy really was the dumbest thing ever, but it was all about I felt the vibe and you talk about the world and the energy,
Yeah.
right?
Well, explain what it is in case people
Okay.
haven't seen it.
So the shimmy is the dumbest thing I ever did. It's just this shoulder move thing, and it's supposed to take the blues away,
Mhm.
but it truly does. So I started it in October this past fall of 2025, and I was like, I'll do it for 30 days, right? And I was only going to do it a few days actually, and then I kept going and going and going, and it was just. But every day I'm moving, right, and I'm smiling, and I'm like into this song and it was the stupidest thing ever, but it really wasn't because what was happening was on the different social media platforms, it wasn't the people commenting, it was the viewership. And it was just
Mhm.
going, going, going. And then the comments were coming and people were like, I shimmy every day with my son, my toddler, my
Mhm.
kids in college, like different messages I was getting from different universities. they were having their first time off to college, and these kids were shimmying in their dorms with me because they were so depressed.
Well, there's a lot to be said about moving your body. So, like,
Yeah.
my girlfriend that I work out with lots of times a week, we go to it's kind of like a CrossFit gym, but just for women and like a little more badass than CrossFit. But she will always say, like, that's why we come. We got to be the baddies and shake the saddies, you
Yeah,
know. And like,
yeah,
you go and you
exactly.
move your body, and it elevates your
Yeah, and I mean, it's
energy.
only like 15 seconds, right?
Okay, well, we
And
do a lot more than 50 seconds, but
but I mean, this is only 15
yeah.
seconds, but I had no idea that something so silly and stupid
Mm-hmm.
in my mind really became this thing, right? And then I kind of changed my modality, and so on social media, I did this kind of gratitude, grateful November. I slowed
Mm-hmm.
it down. I went from these moving shimmies to all of a sudden like a meditation. Then I went to an Advent meditation in December, and then everybody, no matter where I go, "Where's the shimmy? Where's the shimmy? Where's the
Mm-hmm.
shimmy?" Like, constantly. I'm in the grocery store, this little kid the other day, "Mom, there's the shimmy girl." Like, it was just kind of funny. And so I was like, "All right, well, I'll see what the feedback was."
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of funny, like, it just spun, and
Yeah.
I think it was because it was not planned. It's not something you have to learn to do, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're not like a eight count of anything, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't sexy, and it wasn't anything. I mean, sometimes are just rolling out of bed, putting a shirt on, and shimmying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe that was the. I don't know what it was, but
Well, it's just sometimes it's good to be goofy, you know?
you know, but it does. But back to that energy and that movement. So I do those shimmies, and they are hard work. I
Mhm,
sometimes I'm doing 15 takes of them because
mhm.
I'll make a stupid face or I'll trip or something. So I'm doing take after take after take. So by the time I hit my shimmy that I
Well,
post,
you're also doing it to music,
I'm
so I'm
sweating.
yeah,
Like, I'm actually sweating by the time that post gets up there.
yeah, but music elevates the space and not
It
only in
does.
your mind, but physically too, like, I know after I play loud music in my house, I feel like a
Yeah.
elevation and, like,
Yeah,
you know?
and so that 15-second clip that you're seeing out there is probably about a 20-minute workout for me. I kid you not. And and then you're having to smile more and more because now you're tired
Yeah.
or you're sweating or
Well, if you
whatever's
ever
going
need
on.
a stand-in, maybe I'll make my
Oh,
gym do a big
you're
shimmy.
gonna shimmy with me, don't worry. We're gonna do a podcast shimmy at some point. So yeah, I think energy, but it does boost my day. So
Uh-huh,
I noticed the test
yeah,
doing it for 30 days, not doing it, and then doing it, it makes a huge
yeah,
difference in, like, how my day
yeah.
starts.
Well, on that note, everybody go find a shimmy. Go look her up, find her Facebook, Instagram page, find a shimmy, and, tag us in it. Sounds good. All right.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Don't forget, we might be dead. You've been listening to We Might Be Dead. If there's a topic you'd like to hear about or have any questions you'd like answered, shoot us an email at podcast@wemightbedeadpod.com. And while you're at it, hop over and rate us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thanks. Don't forget, we might be dead.